Hi, this is Glenda coming to you as the wise woman. And today I want to talk about confidence and how we instill confidence in ourselves. But one of the main things as a mom, as a coach, as a woman, I want to show other women how to install confidence in themselves, but also in their children, because we have a new world coming in behind us. And we want to make sure that these young people that are coming in, who will be taking over the world, are strong and confident and have that self-esteem within themselves. So today I'm going to be talking to a wonderful young woman who is very wise within her own means. Her name is Tanya Hayden. And Tanya is she's just a beautiful, beautiful soul. But on top of it, she is a teacher, and she'll tell us about the classroom that she teaches and how old her kids are. And we're going to talk about of how we can, as parents, as teachers, as women, how we can encourage self-confidence, never mind within ourselves, which is so important, but how we can bring that into our children as well, so that we can make them more powerful within themselves. So Tanya, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Glenda, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
So tell me, first of all, before we get into this conversation, and as we're just telling everybody who's watching us, that we're just flowing as women do. We get on a conversation and we just keep going. So there's no scripts, there's no nothing at all. It's just being real.
Totally.
So, tell us first of all about you and your kids.
Okay, so I am a teacher with York Region District School Board, and I've actually taught all grades. I've had the pleasure of teaching grades 1 through 8 in different schools, and currently, due to the pandemic, I've actually been redeployed. I believe I'm on my 3rd or 4th redeployment. So I started off teaching in a position of grade 6. I didn't even get a chance to start. It was changed to another position where I worked with a series of grades. And then I was redeployed to a virtual classroom where I've been working with students with autism, on the autism spectrum. Wow. Virtually. And I will be redeployed again as of January 4th. I'm not quite sure what that will look like, but this is the thing, right? This is the flow. This is what we do, and we go where we need to be.
And this is what we're living in, right?
100%. And it's all about flexibility. And as much as it is frustrating, and you need to take that moment to kind of like get yourself together when you know that you're starting anew again, that's what it is. This is just the reality, and it's not going to help to kind of go against it and create any sort of friction with it. It's only going to harm you. So we go with the flow. But I feel super blessed because I get to work with wonderful children. Like, I have nothing to complain about when it comes to that. Lovely.
Well, you know, those kids are just actually blessed to have you, and especially to have that outlook, because that outlook changes everything, because then they don't feel that stress within themselves, right?
That's right. That's right. And it's like, we take the lead. So, you know, we set the tone. Even as parents, you kind of set the tone, and our children are looking to us to know how to deal with uncertainty. And that's during a pandemic or not, right? Like, we are children and adults, we're bombarded with social media, news, information, whatever it is. Children are having to grow up a lot faster than we did when we were children, right? Like, we could actually be kids. And I feel like now there's so much exposure to information that they're having to grow up a lot faster. So I think it's in our best interest to help them navigate through all of these challenges and really flow. And that, I think, comes down to mindset. Like, what are things that we can teach our kids that they can take from situation to situation, not just one tool? Like, what are a few things that they can use, that they could have in their toolbox, that they could use throughout any situation that they encounter, whether it's academic or social?
So you mentioned a few major things, which are my ahas, and I just absolutely love them. So let's start first of all, when we talk about, you just said, first of all, you started by saying that you as parents, or all of us as parents, need to take the lead. So, you know, when we feel in ourselves that we don't have our own confidence within ourselves, we actually mirror it onto our children.
Totally, totally.
So so it all has to start first of all from us within. We need to understand with ourselves, and maybe we work through that, because I know as a mom, I have all seen through the years that my kids kind of feed off me as who I am, and when I'm going through times and where things are rough, my kids, those are when they were acting out their most and that. So as a woman, it's really important to know who you are and to have that self-confidence, that self-image, that
Totally.
is being like, so it's all defined self-image. Self-image is how you perceive yourself. It's a number of self-impressions that we built up over time, and we'll discuss that that key point. Self-image can be very positive, giving person confidence in their thoughts and actions, or negative and making a person doubtful of their capabilities and ideas.
Totally.
So it all starts of, and you know, I always remind people, we don't become the people we are because of today.
No.
So as children, and that's why this is so important, you know, it's children grow up, first of all, if they don't have that self-image, it could be like, you know, like if I have bad self-image on myself, maybe it was because I was a child and somebody told me that I was fat and ugly.
Totally.
And I believed the entire time I grew up that I was fat and ugly.
Right. And our kids are almost experiencing that within social media, for example. They don't even need to be directly told that they don't look a certain way, just by simply like the glorification of an ideal body or an ideal lifestyle is enough. It's an indirect message to that child to say, whatever it is you have going on is just not good enough. So now it's not even like the direct language, it's direct language that they may be facing, but also this indirect message that society is holding and they are being bombarded with.
That's huge, because social media now with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and you name it, and probably another million other ones, because every day something else is coming up. You know, even magazines, you know, like if you weren't like a stick in these days, you weren't nothing. And now people don't stop to think that those magazine covers have all been touched.
Right.
And we don't stop to look at in the Renaissance years that the women that were very voluptuous and curvy were the
beautiful
women.
Yes, absolutely. And now it's not just the body image, but it's the lifestyle. So you have teens to maybe, you know, young adults that are making millions of dollars off of YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be. And now we've got our children that want that. So now that has become a standard of like this kind of lifestyle, like that is what they should be achieving. It's so, wow, it's such a huge gap from like where they are to what they're trying to achieve, that it's just, not to say that they can't, just a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot of unnecessary pressure on children. And when I say children, I'm talking like elementary to like high school, you know, teens, all of that. Like they're carrying a lot more pressure, but looks, absolutely, body image, totally, and like the lifestyle is huge.
So when we go back, it's funny, because even as a woman, if I were to look at myself, and years ago I knocked myself down, it was just the way I used to be, because I wasn't happy or feeling comfortable in my own skin, and I would look at myself and go, ugh, you know, you don't look really good. And never mind did I ever think that my child was maybe in the same room, because what we have to remember is that, you know, when we say things, you don't know who's listening.
Totally.
So as a woman, you need to know that you need to love yourself. Like I have a program that I run with my with some of my clients. And one of the things I explain to them is to stand in front of a mirror naked and look at your body and look at the entire body instead of looking at yourself in pieces and pulling yourself apart. Look
Yes.
at what an incredible, beautiful image that you have. Like you are, it's just miraculous that what you are, right?
100. Yep.
Everything, like the fact that we breathe and we can, and our heart pumps, and we don't have to even think of all of this.
Nope.
So looking more at the picture and loving ourselves for who we are and how unique we are in every way.
Totally. I think as women, whether we have children or not, we are giving. We've talked about this before, where we just want to do for others. We will put others ahead of ourselves. Sometimes we don't even look at each other because at ourselves, right? It's just like wake up and you're on. And you know, a lot of women take pride in that selflessness, and totally they should. But at some point in time, what I'm realizing is we give and we do for others, but at the expense of ourselves. And we could do a lot more if we just take a little bit of time to kind of build that confidence, looking in the mirror and just kind of giving ourselves that time to really appreciate what we have and who we are, right? Shoulders back and like give yourself that moment, right? That's incredible. So you're not selfish for giving yourself that time. I think that's huge. A lot of women might feel like they might feel guilt for taking that time for themselves when there's so many other people that depend on them and rely on them. But that's going to make a big change. Like you said, children are looking at their parents for like that guidance and that example, that role model. Well, how much more can you give your child if you just fill your bucket a little bit?
Right. So you spend that time by loving yourself a little bit,
Totally.
by realizing that you are unique in your own way, by taking those little extra moments by, you know, what makes you feel good. So get up in the morning and take a shower and do your hair and put some cream on your body and you feel good. You feel empowered and you show your child that you're looking after yourself.
And what if looking after yourself sometimes means saying no?
Well,
How
there's
about that?
an idea. Like, you know, I grew up in the time, you know, mothers really never said no to their kids. But, you know, then we're ended up bringing up all these kids that it's all me, me, me.
Right. And like, there's no harm in saying no because we're preparing them for the world. And sometimes in the world, they're going to hear no. You know, what if we say no to other things that we want to, that people need of us? What if we say no to some of those things without feeling guilt? Because I think that all the yeses are at the cost of our confidence, right? Our worth. At some point in time, you kind of lose sight of that because you're just constantly moving.
And you have to realize that, you know, it's got to be about you, you know, like being about you doesn't mean that you're selfish.
No.
Being about you means that you can be a better person. And besides the point, and what people need to start to realize that we can't be everything to everybody. So no means, you know what, if I only have 15 minutes of spare time in my day, then I'm going to decide who I'm going to share that 15 minutes with.
100%. That time, that energy, who are you giving it to? If you take a moment to really cherish yourself, then you become a lot more aware and mindful of your time and energy. Who do you want to give that to? Who do you want to spend that with? Who's on that list? We've talked about this before, right? Like that priority list. You mentioned us women, sometimes we're not even on our own list.
It took me years to come onto the list. I was too busy looking after everyone that I never got on the list until one year I said, okay, this year I'm putting myself on the list. Yeah. And then it took another year to say, okay, this year I'm going on the top of the list.
That's it. You know, your kids are well equipped. You've given them the tools to kind of do their thing and you're forever there. But okay, now you can actually put yourself on top of the list. I think women, like as women, we need to not feel guilty for just even being on the list. We don't need to be at the top, but it's really important to just be on our own to-do list, our own priority list.
When we feel good, when we feel happy, that happiness, it's like a wave. It just keeps going on and on and on. So when you're feeling
Totally.
good and you're feeling empowered and you like yourself, you feel it, and your family feels it.
100. And how much more empowered, I don't know about you, but I feel very empowered when I take control. So I'm not running on autopilot, helping everybody and everyone and doing all the things that we need to do. When I really take control, I find that I could kind of hold myself up high. For me, saying no, thank you, not right now, that is where my confidence comes from. You asked me this question before and I was stumped. Like, what is confidence? How would you define confidence? And I was like, oh yeah, my intellect. And like, that was like right away. And I was like, no, I feel the most confident when I am true to myself. When someone asks me to do something and in my heart, I don't want to do it, but I say yes anyways, because I don't want to feel the guilt. Well, I feel the most powerful when I say, you know what? No, I can't today. Or I don't think that's safe, especially now with the pandemic, right? You can't meet with friends, but you might feel guilty saying no, but be true to yourself. If you are scared, if you don't want to go out, say no. And that power is like no other. And that changes things. That creates a shift in your energy, and everybody around you is going to feel that shift because you're not living for anyone else. You're not giving people the reaction that you think they want to things. You're being true. You're saying no because you're living for yourself. All of a sudden, not only are your energy is a lot clearer and people are feeling that,
Right.
but now you're setting an example to your child to say, you know what, honey, like it's okay to say no sometimes for the right reasons, not just because you want to be rude or you're lazy, you want to be lazy about something. No, but like there's something that's true to you and you have a good reason for it. It's okay to say no. Not right
But
now.
let's go back a shade too. As a nowadays, majority of women are out there working and running a household,
Totally.
and running kids, doing activities and all the rest. Here's the other thing is you do have that right one day to feel lazy and not
Yes.
feel guilty that if you want to get down and
Yes.
nothing one day, find activities for your kids to do so they're not pulling you away, and take advantage if you do want to do that.
Yes.
We got to learn that we got to be okay with we're running and doing and going all the time anyways. We have to learn. Like the first time I sat down and did nothing, I remember that day I felt guilt.
Right.
Putting my feet up, and that's so silly.
You definitely not. And that comes with our self-talk, right? I feel like our self-talk is a major key, and it's the negative talk is almost like on autopilot. It just happens. There's no effort there.
So, part of the whole thing is as we live in a negative world, all of the media, everything is negative, and we have to learn to shift our own thinking.
Totally.
So it's being aware of what's going on in here. Yeah. Right? So if you start talking to yourself in a negative way, and I just finished doing a program with some women just now, and what I say is let a bell go off in your head when you start talking negative. And even if you have to say to yourself, stop.
Yep.
Stop.
Totally.
If you're like, for instance, if you put on an outfit, instead of saying, I look fat in this outfit, how about saying, this outfit just isn't for me?
Yeah.
Like it's time to start shifting our thoughts and our conversations that we have. And we should be talking to ourselves, but 100. In an empowering way.
I like that you said that. It's not, you're not saying stay in that clothes and tell yourself that you look great, because that's fake. You can't help how you're feeling in that clothes. It's just, okay, this isn't for me right now. Let me try something else. That is very real. I think that where we find, me at least, I want to listen to affirmations. I want to do these things, but it really needs to feel like it's in line with who I am and where my belief system at this moment. To say that I am putting on clothes and I'm just going to tell myself that I feel great and I'm going to keep telling myself that, that's not going to work. That's not going to work for me. So what's a real suggestion? I love that. That's great. It's not for me right now. Let me go try something else on.
So the other thing that I strongly suggest is when we're working on our confidence and building ourselves up, we take a look at our clothes. If stuff is tight on us and we don't feel comfortable in it, don't wear it. Because there's nothing worse than wearing something and you're playing around with yourself all day and you're pulling at the pants and wear things that are comfortable. Go through your closet. If stuff doesn't fit, if you haven't worn it for 2 years, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Wear things. You don't need to spend a fortune of money on clothing. You just need to wear things that are age appropriate for you, that you feel comfortable in.
Yeah. It's just as important as feeling comfortable in your own skin. Like you said, you take that time, you put your lotion on, you take time to really look at yourself and feel all the goodness. And your clothes should reflect that. If you're going to start working on yourself, your clothes need to kind of match that feeling. You don't want to be like, I love my body. This is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then you're going to put on like the tightest pair of jeans because that's the size you might want to fit in. First of all, that's not what we're about. We're not about fitting into clothes. We are beautiful. We are strong. Put on, I love it. Put on the clothes that make you feel good, make you really feel good. And if that's a really nice pair of sweatpants and a nice hoodie, and that's making you feel good, and it's all about like those shoulders back and that head high, that's what you're going to wear. But you're put together and you feel good. Not frumpy, just, something that makes you feel good at that time. Why not?
And that's why I always suggest to my women that I work with, and even with men too, it's really important that you spend that time for yourself, to put yourself, because that's your start of your empowerment. When you walk into a room, when the days come when we go back to our rooms,
yes.
When you walk into a meeting or something, or you're seeing a client, you want to make sure that you look the part, you feel the part, and you're only going to feel the part when you're dressed the part, when you're groomed the part. Then you come in with power, because people, you only have 2 seconds before somebody's made their first impression of you, and
Totally.
You want to come through and show, and that showing up is showing up by your body image, by your smile on your face,
yeah,
by your way you stand, the way you hold yourself. That's what it's about, right? That's your power.
That is your power. Totally. I agree. That's the exterior. But also what I was thinking of that I wanted to ask you. I said before, truth. You have to live your truth. But how many people actually know their truth? If you are saying yes to everything and doing yes for everyone, like, how do you find your truth? How do you know that you're living your truth?
Well, that's where a lot of coaching comes into playing, where you start to figure out, first of all, it starts to go back to figure out, who am I? Who am I?
Yes.
What makes me feel good? What are my beliefs? What are my virtues? Those are the questions you have to start by asking yourself, so that you can show up to being yourself, so that we can teach kids to being themselves. So, and if we just keep sucking everything down, what do you think the kids are going to be doing?
The exact same. And when they're confronted with really difficult situations, with decisions, which they will be, I think it's more like now more than ever really important to have them really grounded and to find their power to say no. If they're being asked to join a party or anything else, that peer pressure, it's so important nowadays to really ground our kids and say and start planting those seeds of empowerment. There's so much power in saying no, regardless of what other people think of you.
And it's so important as a parent, and I'll tell you a story in a second. It's very important as a parent that when your child says no, that you need to respect that.
Yeah.
You can't, because you're the parent, push them into doing something. I remember when my son was in public school, and he went to a school where, the kids, they all had to invite one another to their parties.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was not the social butterfly. He was very much of an introvert. He was the nerd. And he really was very comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
And I admired that. And when came to parties, and I would say, you got to go to somebody's party. And he would say, no, I don't. And I would say, yeah, it's not nice, because I thought it wasn't nice.
Right.
And I'm grateful because it wasn't me, it was him that was just saying, no, I'm not going. I don't want to go. I don't really need to go. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we have to learn who the messages is that are coming to us. We don't always learn from people that are above us. We learn from anybody can be our
Yes.
teacher, right?
100. A lot of people like to ask me also, like, what books are you reading? And, where do you get most of your knowledge? From my kids, from my students. I listen more, right? We have to use it. We have to use, you told me this, in proportion. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen more and talk less. And our kids will tell us, they'll tell us what they're feeling. And some kids may not, but that's kind of our job, to equip them with that language to, I'm going to get technical, not that it matters, but we use like zones of regulation, even with kids that are really young, or it doesn't really matter if they're struggling to verbalize how they're feeling. Well, you know what? We're going to use colors, because what you're thinking and what you're feeling, those are valid. You're very valid in those thoughts and feelings. Let me help you verbalize that. Because if I know exactly what's going on and how you're feeling, then I can support you in your journey, in your process, right? That's huge.
Yeah, and that respect starts when a child feels that they're being heard. They, it's at that point they are playing in the big picture.
That's
They
it.
come out and they're blossomed. When
That's
they
right.
feel that they're not being heard, we're shoving them down. We're not respecting who they are.
That's right. And there's a time and place when, and you could have that conversation where, you're talking and they're a player in this, in their life, they're an active participant. And then there's a time where as parents, we might need to lead them a little bit. We might need to take over a little bit, and that's okay too. But it's really about that balance. But listening, especially now, I find that when I was a child, my parents never had conversations with me about, adult things. They didn't have to. I was a child that lived in the park. There was no technology, there were no cell phones. But now with the mass exposure to things, to content, those conversations need to take place. They have to. So, and that's very empowering for our kids, because now you're talking to them not as an adult, but you are, again, it's like they're active participants. They matter. Their voice is being heard. Their voice matters. That's very empowering.
But through that, we can still teach things like manners of teaching a
Oh my
child
gosh,
that
yes.
it's, I'm speaking, just wait a second, and yes, I will hear you.
Yes.
It's just that they are learning that when their time comes, everybody still needs to learn the appropriate things.
Absolutely.
And every child still needs to have even times where they fall. A fall is important, because if we keep catching them and they have no falls, they're going
Yes.
to grow up and they're going to think the world, they're entitled to everything, because they don't know any different.
I'm smiling because failure is like my favorite thing. I had never thought I would say this, but I love failure. And I love it when my kids fail, because I can say, okay, all right. And I'm like a super cheerleader. All right. Okay. So, what are we going to do now? Okay. Did you do this, this, and this? No, miss, I didn't really study. I had this going on. All right, cool. No problem. Let's try this now. Right. And it's that idea that you fell or you failed,
You learned.
and you learned. It's a lesson. It becomes a lesson. It's not about like you failed, you sucked. That's not what it's about. Now there's a lesson. Put that in your backpack. Put that lesson in your backpack. It's that experience.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's even as a teacher, I know you know this because we've talked about it. It's, everybody has different ways of learning. Everybody, parents, teachers, it doesn't matter how old you are. And some of us are verbal and some of us are visual,
Totally.
and some teachers only teach in this fashion, and sometimes you have to adjust yourself. And sometimes when you connect, even when you talk with your children, sometimes when you explain something and you see that look on their face and they say they don't get it, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's time for you to step back and think, okay, how can I rephrase this so they can understand.
How can I empower my child? How can I ensure that he or she, they understand that that's fine, you know? Oh, you don't learn that way? Oh my God, tell me. So what makes sense? Well, you know, miss, if I use these manipulatives, or if I draw it out, or if I just watch this video, no way, you understand it like that? Perfect, perfect. And now that's, you know, you'll notice the change in their face right away. They kind of open up their eyes. The shoulders are no longer down. Well, that's empowerment. That is confidence. That's happening at the school. We call it growth mindset. You know, us as teachers,
Love
that's
it.
what we're trying to do. The whole class, our day to day is more about growth mindset than the academics. Not to say academics are not important, they truly are, but their mindset will make or break the success, because you know, math is going to be hard sometimes, but that mindset is what will keep you persevering to get to where you need to go.
But mindset is important in everyday business. That's one of the key ingredients when I coach. It's not just about opening up a business and starting out again, or how you make it through a lousy divorce, or it's not about it. It's how you think of things as you're going through it. So if you're looking at things that you're already beat before you start, well, yeah, you know what? You are.
100%. And your language is key. Yes.
And the other thing, as you're saying, is failure. Well, failure isn't failure. It's really a learn, right? So as we learn, we grow and we become stronger from what we've been through.
That's right. That's right. It's not poor you, even as an adult, having gone through so much, maybe calling it failures. That's fine. But we call it lessons. Well, I'm a better woman for that. I'm a stronger woman for that. There's not much, and I'm sure I still have a lot more failures and a lot more lessons to learn, and I'm okay with that, and I embrace it. I think when you're really down in the dumps, it's hard to look at the lesson. So
Yeah.
I think it's also important to kind of I realize that, like you said, with the lazy days, it's okay to be down. It's okay to feel that, but you have to know when to pick yourself back up. And I think that's also where your coaching comes in, and that's perfect. It's to know, okay, your thoughts and feelings are valid, but the world keeps moving. It doesn't matter if you had a death or a divorce or your business just went to, you know what, the world doesn't really care. And like, it sounds harsh, but that's the reality that I've learned, and I hold no offense to it. At some point in time, you need to get up.
You're allowed to have a breakdown, because sometimes your best breakdowns are actually your breakthroughs.
Absolutely.
So when you fall apart, you allow yourself maybe a day so you can sort of fall apart,
Yes.
pull all your stuff together, and you resurge up. It's also important that you find a person or two in your life, or if you don't have, you get somebody, a coach or a mentor, that somebody will help you sit back and sort of figure out where in the dust falls, where everything is, so that you can come up, and you can come up even stronger and move forward instead of just sitting and going in circles.
Yeah. Like, we can be a victim of our circumstances.
Yes.
For a short time. After a certain while, you're just doing a disservice to you, because at the end of the day, the world does not care. So you, like you said, you have your friend, maybe it's one or two friends that A, are going to give you a little tough love sometimes too, and B, will also just give you that time and that sweetness that you might need, that comfort you might need. You need a balance. You don't want people constantly justifying, you know, your woe is me. You want people to say, all right, you know what, Tanya, I know you're sad. I need you to go outside for 5 minutes. Just go for a quick walk, get a little sun. Can you do that for me? And it's like those little steps, and then you go outside. Sometimes it's just waking up in the morning, and that's a win, right? And we got to tell ourselves that, like, I woke up this morning and I'm like really struggling with life right now, but I woke up.
Well, and that's what I say, you know, like we put a lot of stipulations on ourselves, and sometimes we put things that are too hard on us. And so, you know, each morning I highly suggest that people, first of all, have a bit of a gratitude. Either they have a journal or they go through it in their mind. And, you know, for every morning, just the fact that you're waking up and that you're able to breathe and
Totally.
that's a lot to be grateful for. But, you know, and if some days, if that's all you can really do,
That's a
then
win.
it's okay too.
That's a win. And sometimes it actually takes effort to tell yourself that. I know for me it does. It's so, like I said, my negative self-talk is autopilot. Don't even have to think about it. It's just right there, ready to come for me. But I have to tell myself, no, you got this done. You did this. You went outside. You took some time for yourself. You did good today, Tanya. I actually have to say that out loud sometimes,
And that's good.
multiple times. And it's almost like reprogramming, my way of thinking. But how good does it feel? Like that, like, again, it's this topic of confidence. All these things go under this topic of confidence.
Well, confidence can keep going for so many different things. So the other thing, like you're just saying, of you going through the things, you know, I use this analogy a lot of times with my clients is, you know, when we're driving, we have a big window that we're looking through and we're driving. And then we have the rear view mirror where you were supposed to look where we've been. So,
Yes.
you know, when your confidence is low, you got to look in the rear view mirror. You can't live in the past, but your rear view mirror is to show you where you've been. So look in your past and start to look at your accomplishments,
Yes.
no matter how small they are, no matter what has happened in it. Just start looking at those accomplishments and rhyme them off to yourself or say it out loud. Wow, I did this and I did this and I did this. And that should make you feel good within yourself. And that's what it's about. Because
Totally.
you've got to, it's about celebrating the wins and stop knocking the learns.
I could have done more. I should have done more. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Leave that behind you. And when I was in a like dark, difficult place, what started getting me out of it was, I'm just gonna make today a little bit better than yesterday. That was it. That was as easy I was trying to be on myself. It was like, yesterday I woke up and I was in my pajamas all day and I just hated the world and I hated my life. Okay, tomorrow, I wake up the next day and it's like, today I'm going to change my clothes. And maybe my thoughts are still the same, but I'm actually going to put some clothes on today and wash my face and brush my teeth and put my hair up. That's what I'm going to do today. And that's a win because I didn't do that yesterday. Like, it's these little steps. It doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, I finished everything on my to-do list. I'm a great human. No, it's just make it a little bit better than the day before.
Yes,
You'll gain that momentum.
right. So baby steps turns into being huge, huge wins and huge changes everything. So that I've always believed in every baby step forward, because at least you're moving forward. It doesn't matter how much it is. And even if it's like you're saying, you get up and you just wash your face and brush your teeth. And if that's all you can do that day, bonus.
Win. Yep, totally.
So I think that, as we were sort of winding up, and we could keep going, about our body image and our self-talk and all the rest of it. Like if you were to now, we're starting in a new year coming, and I'm very much aware now of the new year coming in, and that's what I'm bringing everybody into focus with right now. We're in the midst of December. We're still in COVID. We're still going to be in this for a little while longer.
Totally.
To move forward and to keep going in the new year, do you have any words of wisdom that you can share?
Words that I'm going to be applying moving forward as well is one day at a time. It's one day at a time, and I'm doing one small thing for myself every day. That's it. And I'm actually able to look at the year thus far and pull out even just one positive that I could take with me. There's one thing, there's one growth at least that I'm going to take with me into 2021. This has been the year where, I've had to say no to many people. This is the year that I've had to learn how to be extremely flexible and persevere and go. And that's where I found a lot of confidence. So I'm going into 2021 and saying, and everyone can say this, hopefully, I survived. And because I survived, I'm a greater person for that. I'm a more confident person for that. I'm going to put my head back, my shoulders back, my head high, and let's go 2021, because I survived 2020 and it was a hard year. You know, that in itself is empowering. You are here. You are here, and you're hopefully going to enter into 2021. That's a win. That's a win.
Yeah, and I appreciate that's a beautiful, beautiful analogy of moving forward into a new decade that we're going to be starting and growing into this new world. And it will be changing and it will be tough, but you know, that's all what everything is in life, right? Nothing comes easy, but it does come if you just keep on going.
Keep going.
Work, right?
Keep going.
The one thing that I highly suggest is 2021, we all have great dreams of it, you know, getting out, that the virus is going to be over and all the rest of it. And I sort of ask people at this point, and you tell me your thoughts on this, is just to look at, have a goal in mind, what you want to see by the end of the next decade, so you have some idea of where you want to look for. It doesn't have to be solid, but it can just have a sort of a goal out there. So you sort of have, it's like going on a trip, and you need to know the end point, because it doesn't matter how you get there.
No.
It could be a lot of curves, but at least there's something out there to aim for. So that's what I try to give us, everybody, you know, even your little tiny steps, you need to have something where you're stepping to.
Absolutely, I agree. And for me, you know, I've done little bits and pieces through 2020, and it's been a crazy year for all of us. There's a lot of uncertainty. If I had to make one goal for myself, it would be to put myself on the list. That's what I would do. I need to put myself on the list. As good as I'm feeling, and I've grown this year, putting myself on the list, it's like I'm on the list, then I'm off the list, then I'm on the, you know, and it's trying to consistently keep myself on the list of priorities, considering all of the uncertainty. Yeah.
And you know, like, so just for a little back for a moment to everybody, again, if you fall off the list, it's not the end of the world. Do not beat yourself up.
Definitely not.
You know, as we're talking through all this, nothing is set in stone. It's if you fall off, if you set yourself that every day you're going to go and you're going to work out, and you don't do it one day, okay, tomorrow's a new day. You get up and you move forward into that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay.
Yeah.
We have to learn to be a little bit more flexible with ourselves and with our lives, and just be grateful.
100%, because we're here. And if we're lucky enough to make it to 2021, that is a blessing in itself. That is enough for us to just say, I'm going to be easy on myself. I made it this far. You know,
You deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love yourself. Just love yourself, because you're here, and that's okay. That's it. That is enough. That is enough. You are enough.
You are enough. And that's the huge bit of pieces. And we can go on for another week about growing up.
Yeah, totally. We could chat for the rest of the day if we wanted to. Totally.
I love it. Well, thank you for such wise words of wisdom, my dear. You are an absolute angel. I totally adore you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to just put this out to people when you hear this, and if it resonates with you, then give us a love and a like. Tanya's, there will be on the bottom of this a link so you can touch base with her if you wish, and also for myself. But also, if you know somebody who might be going through their own little bit of problems or with their kids, and this is something that you know that could help somebody else out, because this is what we're all about. It's not just me. I know with Tanya as well. It's all about, we're here to empower other people in their lives, It's about loving yourself. It's about so much more. So if you know anybody else that could really hear, listen, or really get some benefit out of hearing all of this, then please just share it. Because like we say, loving and learning and just being respectful of one another and growing, it's a much better community once we can share, wise words of wisdom.
Absolutely. Glenda, thank you so much for having me today. This was incredible. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us your opinions and your wise words, and we'll be speaking with each other very shortly.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.